There should be 2 hard copies around here somewhere of this manual. If you go down a couple pages, table of contents. We're going to find calibrations. Okay, at page 15. It lied to me. Oh, that's a screen calibration, excuse me. Let's go back to page 2. Touch calibration.
Calibration numbers.
That's going to give you the numbers. The distance calibration, stripe correction, page 92. This is for your distance calibration. Do you guys have 1,000 feet marked out anywhere for calibrating this truck?
Y'all have 1,000 feet marked down anywhere for calibration?
What?
Just up here and answer this man's question. He wants to know you have 1,000 feet marked down somewhere for calibration?
No.
When this truck was first trained, you should have done a distance calibration. They usually mark out a 1,000-foot course. You're supposed to check your calibration a couple times a year. You don't do that?
No, I have never checked it.
Okay, that's something you should do. Get the surveyors out there. A nice straight course. You mark out 1,000 feet. And it's got to be straight. It's nice you have a line to follow, like a straight stretch of road. And then you go through this calibration process. See it right here. You got to do it through the timers in the back. And you should check that calibration. And I'll go through it back there with you too. And after that, you can also do the gallon counts. This is your pump calibration. You go pick the pump you want to calibrate, and basically there's a number in there already. You put 5 gallons in the pail, you just lower and raise that number till you can pump a true 5 gallons into the pail. Like it's going to say you got 0.23 gallons per stroke. Okay, you fill up the thing, and if you're a little short, you're going to change that to 0.3 gallons. Let's say 0.21, 0.23 gallons per stroke. And that's going to tell you got more gallons until when you pump up to 5 gallons in the pail, it says 5 gallons on the timer. And I'll show you that all in the back. But the instructions are all right here. If you ever get confused in the future. And this is kind of using the the SC18. Kind of crazy. They're using a glass cockpit to do so. So let's go back to the timer now. Want to come on over here, get close. A second. You're going to go into the calibration mode. You can select between yes and no here. And we hit this one, it's like the enter button. So we're going to set cal, we're going to go yes. We're going to go like that. We're going to go set yellow. We're going to move this over to yes. And we're going to say yes. Right now your number is 2175. That's telling you got about 0.2175 gallons per stroke of the pump. So what you do is you pump 5 gallons that you know of, mark off a pail, put 5 gallons in there, and when this thing gets done counting, set everything back to 0, and you pump 5 gallons. If the timer itself in this count screen, you can get out of this. You go back into this screen and gallons, and you start at 0, clear a timer. To clear a timer, you just pull down on this, and you pump 5 known gallons. If this says 4.8, you want to bump that number up a little bit. This 0.2135, whatever it was, try 0.2140, and then do it again and see if you get 5 gallons here. If you don't, you keep on adjusting that number till you get it just right. And do the same for the yellow, the white and the black. You got that?
You get it over here too on this one?
Yep. And I don't know if it's still, actually the DL08, I know the Arizona DOT still has it. Where you can actually upload all your information to Skipline, and they crunch all the numbers for you. You go, and they'll send you back a report to anybody you want to see it the next day. How many gallons you used, where you painted. It even comes up with a GPS map of your area, and you can zoom in, pick any job that you painted, and you can touch that with the mouse, and it'll tell you what time of the day it was, what the temperature was, how fast the truck was going, what the mill thickness was, how many beads were it, even who was driving the truck, all that stuff. And that's not there to keep an eye on you guys, but say for instance you got a bunch of paint that's delineating, that's pulling up from the road, you think you got a bad batch of paint, well you can see all the different areas that you painted with that paint, with that batch number you put in there. And if it's all peeling up, you know you got a bad batch of paint, you can go back to the paint manufacturer and say, hey, you know, we painted 5 different roads with this batch of paint, and they're all peeling up. What are you going to do for us? That sort of thing. Or if there's an accident on the road, the guy says I couldn't see the line. Well, you go back there and you look at it, and say, well, it was painted just 3 months ago, and it had the right amount of paint and beads on it. Some guy goes out there with a retro reflectometer, and they take a test on it, and if the numbers are good, then the guy's just lying. You know? The timer says you get a 1040, a 10-foot line with 40-foot cycle.
Oh,
A 10-foot line and a 30-foot space. Well, if you have your timer set that way, if you spray a line with 0 gun factors, the line's going to be about 10 feet 4 inches long, because the gun mechanically opens up faster than it closes, so it's going to make your line a little bit longer. What you need to do is put a gun factor in there that shortens that line up. You can do it from the cab, changing that 10 to a 9.8, but then all your linear footages are all off. All the data you've collected is corrupt because the computer thinks you're painting a 9.8 foot line, not a 10-foot line. So the gallons don't read out, nothing really adds up in the end. So you change your gun factors to make your line the right length. There's also a gun offset in there, so if you're painting lines side by side and one's a little ahead of the other, you can use an offset to move that line up.
We have a problem with that.
So they start and stop at the same
About
time.
12 inches off.
Well, you can fix that in the timer and make it right. The same with the beads. So the bead guns, you got your universal delay, but if you got one like on a stack gun, you're going to set a universal delay up there for the beads, but if you use this gun, that delay is going to be way off because it's 8 inches different than the first gun. So that gun's going to come on and the beads are going to be missing by that much. So you have to go back in and put an offset in for just that one bead gun to cover that last gun in line. You've never done that?
That's the first time I've heard of it.
Well, on the start off, the guns come on at the same time, but on the shut off, no. On the start off, on a double line, one gun's on before the other gun, about 12 inches.
Well, that's usually because of these springs. Got some spring tension in there. Right now you're pretty light. And you could slow that down by tightening up that spring a little bit.
It's not the calibration that you were talking about.
Well, that's good if you can't get it fixed with this. If you can't get it fixed with this, you go with the electronics. So this is physically what's really happening. And right now you have very little tension on there. So I'm assuming they open up pretty easy.
I think it's gun 2 that's delayed.
Gun 2 is delayed. Yeah, that's pretty light. You want to go too loose on it because too loose, it'll stay open. You don't want
So you can spin that.
and too tight, it won't open.
So you can spin that and kind of move the line.
Yeah, first try doing it with the springs. The springs don't work, then you go to electronic. That's all up here, these delays. Show you up in the box. Wants to come and look.
What is it?
Go in your box. Get back into this. Go back into this calibration thing. Got to be in hold for it to work. Set calibration. We're going to go to yes. Yellow, no. White, no. Black, no. Left box, yes. Shadow black. No. Is that what you do with the black? Shadow? Leave that on yes then. Metric, no. Auto cycle, no. Gun factor of 20 in right now. Okay, that's what the startup is. Got a gun factor of 20. That's for your initial start to help correct what I'm talking about. If that's not right, you're going to want to bump that up a little bit.
Here and here.
Yeah, I just do the plus or minus. Next one is your black offset. Right now it's at 3 inches. That should probably be a little bit more than that, but if it works for you, that's fine. It has been working, right?
Yeah, right when the white shuts off, the black is kicking on.
You're right. Okay, then the offset's good there. And here's your delays. Right now your delay gun 1, there's no delay on that. If you wanted to put one on there, you go over to yes. Then you'd put the calibration number in there by bumping this up. Went to, for some reason it went to that's crazy. Delay 1. Maybe you don't have that feature in here. You go see calibration. That's crazy. You're not supposed to go there. But anyway, if we get it figured out, that's where you put your delay in there. I don't think on this particular timer you can do individual gun delays. I thought you could, but you can't. The newer version of the timer you can on and off delay each gun on the truck to make everything perfect.
How did you get to this? These two buttons up and hold?
These outside buttons up for a second. That's how you
and it goes to, okay.
goes to your
And how do you
calibration.
get out of it?
You have to go through the whole works. If you leave it alone, it'll cycle through that stuff every 10-15 seconds. It'll change. Or you just go to right now you're in no, you get okay, it'll bump right out of it. But anytime you go in there, you got to change something, you have to go through, you have to push this to yes, then you cycle through the whole works.
Okay,
So you
that's
get
cycles, and that's the
You get to the
yes
end,
and no's.
and at the last one, it'll go memorize.
Oh,
It'll accept any changes you made,
okay.
and it goes back to your first screen.
How do you get out of that?
What's that?
How do you get out of that?
That's what you want to look at. That's your stripe, your cycle, your lead, and your lag. It's your bead guns. That's cycle 2. Cycle 1 is a 10-foot stripe with a 30-foot cycle. That means you got a 10-foot stripe with a 20-foot space between. You have a bead lead of 0 and a bead lag of 0.
Okay.
To add a bead lead, and lag, you just hit these
What?
buttons here.
Oh, okay.
That'll make the bead gun come on a little early, and also make it stay on a little bit longer.
Yeah.
That way you get good bead coverage on your line.
Uh-huh. Okay. We normally don't look at that. We're normally looking at, we'll look at this, and
Gallon usage.
that's usually a little different. I don't know, they don't have, usually it's just this. Okay, that's not right.
Well, that looks like
That's
a
our cat track. Should be a 10 or a 1245. Right there. And a 1030. Yeah, there we go.
it's like somebody was doing a
That's
pre-mark
the
there.
new standard for Oklahoma.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the 1030.
So all those 1040s out there, you got to black out or
No.
grind off?
No, we're still painting. That's why we got it saved to 1245. We got to paint them what they are, but when they get overlaid or you know, chipped, and you're going back on a fresh canvas, then we go to the new Oklahoma standard, which is the 1030.